Hey everybody, Joe Cioffi here, weather in 5 days and 5 minutes. And coming up tonight on the Joe and Joe Weather Show podcast, on this holiday shortened work week, we'll take a look at the weather for the rest of the week ahead, the weekend, and we'll peer into the long range. And don't forget, Wednesday, we're going to have a special Joe and Joe podcast with meteorologist Alan Casper will be our special guest. So mark that down too. So we'll see you tonight on the Joe and Joe Weather Show at 7:35 p.m. Eastern Time. Overall, it's quiet across much of the United States. Now, we have one exception, and that's in California, where we have another major storm that's offshore. Heavy rains have been moving inland since last night. Heavy snows in the Sierra Nevadas, and you see winter storm warnings there. Flood watches up from San Diego all the way up the coast, and we have various wind advisories, high wind warnings, and flash flood warnings that are going on there. They're going to actually catch a break and looking at the weather across much of the country this week, it looks to be pretty much on the quiet side. No major systems other than what's going on in the west along the west coast. Here in the east, our warm up has been a bit delayed because of a cold high building in eastern Canada, and some of that colder air is funneling down the east coast. So while temperatures are not going to get out of hand as far as the cold is concerned, it is going to slow the moderation down. So if you're looking for 50-degree weather, you probably will have to wait till Thursday to get it. And in the meantime, as we look out to the west, you can see on the surface map there's a wrapped up storm there west of the California coast, but you have these weather fronts that are sweeping inland with waves of moisture coming in from off the Pacific. And again, well, they're going to catch a bit of a break after tonight. In the meantime, as we look at the satellite loop, it's been pretty much a nice day across the Northeast. Clouds up to the north in upstate New York and New England have been thinning out. It's been a sunny day in the south. Weather conditions have improved in most of Florida except the extreme southeast as low pressure sits offshore. So most of the country back through the plains looks good. You can see the waves of moisture coming into the west and the swirl that's off the coast of California there with that major storm. And as for the radar, as we take an updated look here, some heavy rains have swept inland on the west coast from Washington state down to Southern California. We also have some snows, of course, going on in the mountainous zones. In the eastern part of the United States, really not a whole lot. There's a little bit of rain off the North Carolina coast, and some of the radar echoes are skimming the coast there, but really don't see too much happening. And in between, it's just quiet. Liquid precip over the next 7 days, maybe another round of several inches from San Diego northward up to Oregon and even further north into Washington state. Heavy snows in the Cascades and in the Sierra Nevadas. In the east, not a whole lot happening for the first part of this week, but later this week we'll have an area of rain that'll be coming across the Ohio Valley with half an inch to an inch indicated, and a little bit of that rain that gets up into New England, a half to three-quarters of an inch there. Rain tails off as you drop down through the southeast, through the Carolinas, and down into Florida, and no rain up and down the plain states at all. No snow for the most part either. And here's the snow action, the probability for at least a couple of inches. It's all in the west, in western Colorado, parts of Wyoming into Utah, Nevada, the Sierra Nevadas, the Cascades, and up and through the northern Rockies. If we look at the east, probability of at least 2 inches for the next 72 hours is zilch. So this cold high in eastern Canada settles in. So again, nothing crazy cold, but just enough cold air to keep temperatures from warming up much until we get to maybe starting later on Wednesday, but more than likely Thursday when winds go southwest. We'll have a front with a weak low on it that swings eastward. Maybe it brings some rain Thursday night into Friday morning, perhaps some snow up in northern New England, and then that moves away. And see, from coast to coast at the end of the week and going into the weekend, there's hardly any precipitation at all. So no major storms are in sight, no risks of accumulating snows for the eastern part of the United States. It's just one of those quiet periods that we get into sometimes where the atmosphere has to take a break and recharge. So we'll fill you in on more details on what's going on tonight on the Joe and Joe Weather Show podcast at 7:35 p.m. Eastern Time. And again, Wednesday night, we're going to have Alan Casper as a special guest. So We'll see you tonight at 7:30. 5.